recording.
Okay, I'm hitting the go live button, and we're live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
And I'm Matt. Who's that? The third voice.
Matt's back. I don't know when the last time you were here, but you're probably...
I was in witness protection. Don't tell anybody.
Did I say it's the Verhoeven Effect podcast? No, I can't remember what I said.
That's what you said.
You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. Yeah. Yes, today we have another very special episode. We have the 1986 movie Pretty in Pink. Nathan, do you have a history with Pretty in Pink?
I've seen all the 80s like teenage movies.
All the John Hughes universe movies.
But I probably watched them in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yes, I am familiar with this. I'm not as familiar with this as I was The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles.
Yeah, that's the ones I always saw on cable. I never saw this one on cable, I don't think.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I remembered most of the characters in it and what happened when I watched it, but it's probably been over 15 years. So.
I've never seen it, but I just know about it just through osmosis and stuff like that. Because the thing I always hear about it was like, I guess spoilers, but it's like people are mad that like Ducky doesn't end up with Andy at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then he grows up and he lives with Charlie Sheen and his son. It's very sad.
He grows up to become like a billionaire.
Yeah, it works out
TV
okay.
Show. Yeah.
Matt, do you have a history with Pretty in Pink?
I mean, people tell me that I'm pretty in pink all the time, but as far as the movie, I've only seen it once. But I thought it was a decent movie.
So it came out February 28th, 1996. So obviously would that be? Wait, when is Valentine's Day? Is that the end of the month or the start of the month?
February, I thought.
Yeah, it's in February, but I don't know when it is in February.
That was the 14th.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but I think so.
But yeah, this is probably trying to be around, Valentine's Day. Just like Deadpool,
Makes sense.
A director is Howard Deutsch, who has an interesting career. Mostly done a lot of comedies and stuff. He weirdly does a lot of like sequels to comedies he didn't direct the first one. He did the whole 9 yards second one, which was probably the whole 10 yards. I can't remember. He did like Grumpier Old Men.
Yeah. He's like the pickup guy. And didn't he do this because John Hughes was doing Ferris Bueller at the same time? Like he was directing that.
Oh, I didn't think John Hughes directed any of his movies he wrote.
He was working.
I think he did, but I can't remember.
But yeah, these came out the same year, so he could have been split on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Howard Deutsch is started out as like a music video director, and he did this, Some Kind of Wonderful, which I think Nathan knows about that. I don't know about it.
Which one's it?
Oh, who's in it? It's got Maya Wingwald and the chick from Fried Green Tomatoes, Eric Stoltz, Leah Thompson, Mary Stuart Masterson.
Okay.
I've never seen it. Just sometimes looking at it. Yeah, also, probably the most famous thing he did is he's been married to Leah Thompson since 1989. So.
Well, damn it, your mic's doing that thing again.
Let me reset.
Well, damn it, your mic's doing that thing again.
Does that sound all right?
Yeah, now you're doing good.
Right, yep.
We'll see how we'll get like 20 minutes in and I'll have to reset again. No. Yeah, he's mostly let's see what other stuff did he direct that we recognize. Yeah, mostly he's a TV director now.
Yeah.
So he's done a lot of TV. But probably the craziest thing I looked up is the cinematographer for this.
Oh, the guy did Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, Tak Fujimoto. This guy has a crazy... Well, it'll make sense because there's basically two directors he's linked with, and so why he has so many like huge movies on his resume is because he worked with those directors a lot. But he also worked with Howard Deutsch a lot. He worked with him in almost all his movies too. But yeah, let's see. What's the first thing we'll recognize?
Yeah, there it goes again. It's doing it again. Sorry.
Presumably.
Well, hopefully it works. We'll see how it goes.
We've had a good long run where we haven't had any issues. So.
It's my fault.
I don't know about that.
I don't know, but adding more people to it probably makes it a little more likely something could happen. But
Well, I don't know. It was on my end. Maybe it's probably because my computer didn't like being turned off last night. So.
I think it's because you didn't do a checklist. I think that's what it is.
All right, we're live again.
All righty.
All right. So yeah, the cinematographer for this movie has a crazy career. Tak Fujimoto. I was trying to look up what's the first thing we know he did.
Badlands with Terrence Malick in 1973.
Nice.
Oh, he did Caged Heat. That was the Jonathan Demme like hot women in jail movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Nice.
He did Death Race 2000.
All the classics.
Yeah, so yeah, he did a lot of that Roger Corman stuff. So that's where he got his start. So a lot of practice there. Then yeah, it's going to be Pretty in Pink. Then Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the same year.
Nope.
Married to the Mob, another Jonathan Demme. Cocoon: The Return. No. And then, of course, The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
One of the best movies of all time. This guy here, slumming it doing a romantic comedy, goes on to do Silence of the Lambs.
You got to pay your bills somehow, you know.
Which I actually didn't look up, but like I'd presume, well, maybe he didn't win. You know, does this guy have Oscars under his belt? It seemed like he probably would, but
Let's see.
because I know that won Best Picture the year it came out, but I don't know the other ones it won.
Let me look it up. Silence of the Lambs. Academy Awards for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Adapted Screenplay. I didn't know it was considered the only horror film to win Best Picture. Okay.
Have they seen Crash? That's pretty scary.
No, it did not win for cinematography.
Oh, okay. He did Gladiator, not the Ridley Scott one, the one with like Cuban Gooding Jr. and what's the other guy? What's the fat-headed Irish cop or sheriff from Rambo or First Blood?
Brian Dennehy?
Yeah, Brian Dennehy. It's the boxing movie.
Okay.
It's a movie I like because it was like on cable all the time, but like nobody like respects it. It's not really a good movie. It's kind of like an F grade Rocky, but I liked it.
Hey, it's still good. You might as well watch it.
This guy was cinematographer on Philadelphia. Grump Your Old Men, you know, because he likes to work with Howard Deutsch again.
Yeah.
The Sixth Sense, Signs.
Wow. One of my favorite summer
The
movies.
Happening. And then he did Devil, which is like M. Night Shyamalan adjacent, and then he kind
I
of
saw that movie in theaters. Why? I'm not sure.
And then it seems like as of late he's kind of just retired because I believe he's in his 80s. So, but yeah, so mostly it's like a lot of his stuff. He has a career trajectory with 3 directors: this guy, M. Night Shyamalan, and Jonathan Demme. So
He's also worked with Terrence Malick and a few other like big names like early in their careers.
So yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting in looking up like the who made this movie list to find this guy there. But that's why we like look at these cinematographers, because they can do more movies than directors can, and they have like eccentric backgrounds where it's like they don't have to worry about the quality of the movie they're doing. They just have to worry about the quality of the work they do. So and sometimes they don't get a budget and they just like, well, I need a paycheck, so
Might as well do it.
Of course, this is written by John Hughes, probably in a coke-fueled bin in a cabin somewhere. That's how I heard he liked to do his scripts.
It's the best way to do it. You know?
He would just go off for a weekend, do some drugs, and then come out with like 4 scripts about teenagers.
Oh, I knew he had like the Stephen King like writing style. I didn't know about the cocaine aspect, but
that could be
young,
Hollywood legend, because if it's Hollywood, it just has to involve coke somehow. So
well, but considering how young he died, how he died, it's like, oh, that clicks into place.
Yeah. Of course, the cast is Molly Ringwald, John Cryer, and Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And this, immediately thought like this movie is the prequel to Alien. The job Harry Dean Stanton is trying to get is on the Nostromo, which is going to happen in the future. Just because he was basically Harry Dean Stanton's kind of been the same guy in every movie, no matter what. He's just that guy, and it's like, yeah, he's waiting to go to support his daughter by working on the Nostromo. But once he goes into space, he's going to come back 20 years later, and she's going to be 20 years older, and he's going to be the same age. So this is why this guy's kind of depressed the whole time.
Well, because I
didn't come back at all because he's going to get killed by an alien.
It's unfortunate.
He's going to get chest bursted. Oh wait, no, that was a different guy.
Skull caved in, yeah.
Oh wait, no. No, Harry Dean Stanton doesn't get the chest burst. That's some other guy.
No, he gets killed by the big alien.
Okay.
Comes above him.
I thought this was how it was going to happen to this character, is because I've never seen this movie before, but I've seen Not Another Teen Movie, which just uses all the 80s tropes together. And in that movie, it's which one is it? The Randy Quaid is like the father who's embarrassing because he takes like all the crappy jobs, and I thought that's what was going to happen, but like no, here Harry Dean Stanton never has a job, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
See, I thought he was going to show up being like a janitor at the school, and that was going to be embarrassing for her, but then it turns out, well, he never has a job the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a deadbeat. He has no money. He has no job. He's a loser.
I don't know. They're not being evicted from that house, so I don't know. Money's coming in somehow.
It's like It's like the movie Kingpin situation. He's having sex with a landlord. That's how he keeps stuff. And then she does like a that's what happened.
Well, the thing about this movie is also like in Breakfast Club. That's like this is the class warfare of the Chicago suburbs.
Yeah.
Again, where you have the rich kids and like the poor kids.
Yeah.
And supposedly,
well, they have literal train tracks near her house to be like, oh, this is the family from the other side of the tracks, and
they live in this huge house, and she drives a car.
Yeah,
it's like, if these are poor people in the 80s, like there's a lot of poor people now who would like to go back in time to the 80s.
Yeah,
it seems like, oh well,
it's a simpler time,
a deadbeat, and we can still live in this huge house. It's not like a beautiful, glorious house. But it's like, that's a nice house. Today, that house would be worth $1 million. So it's like,
well, that's like the thing with Home Alone as well. Is like that house in that movie is worth like $16 million, but at the time it's like, oh, it's just a cool house. But it made no sense, like, because they just kind of say, Kevin McAllister is just an everyday kid. It's like, no, he isn't.
Yeah, he's normal. Don't worry about it. His parents are just schlubs.
Yeah, I remember there was a whole podcast about what did his parents do, and it's like, oh, they were involved in like international crime. Like,
they're actually the precursor to Ozark. That's what that was. There's a prequel.
Evil things to get money, and it's like that's why they were so freaked out. Like, we lost one of our kids. Has he been kidnapped by the killers that we work for, or what? And then it turns out, oh no, we just forgot him. But,
and they somehow, because like I don't think it's like they're asking everybody to like pony up and buy their own plane tickets. Like, no, he bought all the plane tickets for like 25 people to go. Where did they go? I can't even remember. Where they go to France? Okay. Yeah. So 25 people to go on an international flight. So that's
pretty easy to do. Not bad. You guys clip coupons, you're set.
Kevin Coupons or Kevin Coupons. Yeah, Kevin McAllister.
Kelvin Coupons. That's his original name. I like that better.
They were evil people. They were the devil. That's how you get that kind of money.
Let me get to my notes. So we have Act 1. The movie opens on a dirty neighborhood with a street sweeper going through it. So this is supposed to show like, oh, this is the other side of the tracks.
And what did the street sweeper say on it? Who made it?
I can't
Elgin.
remember. Huh?
It's Elgin. It's a suburb of Chicago. Elgin. Illinois.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's related, but I always John Hughes is like the Chicago guy. So,
Yeah.
even though he was born in Lansing, Michigan. But
Well, how long
That's
did he
the
live
Chicago of Michigan. Yeah.
Well, how long did he live
Chicago
there?
of Michigan.
I don't know. It's
Lansing.
probably just born there. It's probably like you. Like you were born like what in Orange County, New York, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, you wouldn't call me a New Yorker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I lived in
Where's
Indiana for like 12 years, but I wouldn't call myself from Indiana either. So,
Yeah.
Just when people ask to say you're from the other side of the track, Colin, that's what I would say.
Well, there's been kind of a weird thing because we end up watching a lot of 80s movies, not necessarily intentionally, but it's just easier to reflect on because it has history that we've lived through, you know. And like even when it's like trying to make like a neighborhood look good, it still looks dirty somehow. And I remember like in the 80s and 90s, well, I guess more the 90s, like you'd have street sweepers like all the time, but somehow everything would still look dirty. Whereas nowadays, I almost never seen street sweepers, but everything seems a lot more cleaner than it was like 2 decades ago.
Yeah, that's a
There's no
good point.
factories here anymore.
That's true.
There's less pollution.
We also get the Pretty in Pink song plays from the Psychedelic Furs.
Yeah.
I think I only have like 3 music things I picked out here, so I don't know if you guys have any music you remember from this movie, but you can cut in at any time.
Wasn't this movie the first movie they played "Fuck the Police" in? No.
I want to say that was 89. I can't remember.
Yeah. Because like the thing I remember about the movie is like Ducky's whole thing of like dancing and lip syncing. Like it's kind of like he's like, I'm Sammy Davis Jr. I'm Howlin' Wolf. I'm like I'm black. Look at me. Like it's kind of strange to me. It's kind of odd.
Well,
like John Cryer, like the way he was like dressed and the way he was acting. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Well, I mean, it's one time it's to an Otis Redding song, so I don't know.
Yeah. I just think that means like I don't know. That's what I got at.
No, there's definitely a whole uncomfortable thing here because there's clearly they want to play on this class warfare thing, and they do it mostly poorly. And it seemed like it probably would have been more interesting if it was not just a class thing, but a race thing. But I guess there's no black people in Chicago suburbs, so
I mean, maybe I don't know. Not back in the 80s, I guess.
But I don't know. There's a lot of things that seem pretty poor in this movie. Or it's like, are you trying to say something, or is this like, I don't know what you're doing, but we'll get to that eventually. Because like the whole Blaine character is just a complete empty slate. There's nothing behind there. That's this movie makes no sense as to why. Like, where's this dilemma come in? It seems totally in her mind. So,
Well, like
the whole movie's in her mind.
And,
That's what it is.
and again, I didn't go to high school in the 80s. I'm not that old. I was
Me
more
neither.
90s. But like Andy and Ducky would actually like, as I remember school, like, oh, these would be some of the coolest kids in school. They dress, ironically, and they seem to have this real FU attitude. It's like, I don't think these people would be oppressed. Like,
yeah.
the kids oppressed when I was in school were the kids that like weighed 400 pounds and they were, ninth grade, or they didn't talk right, or so. Because I mean, I was a lot of people like imagined me as an outcast in school or something, but no, I was just a smart ass who like kind of alienated himself from others because I enjoyed doing it, which is I've carried into adulthood to great success also. But like these people, like in this school where they're supposedly downtrodden, is like, no, there actually would be really cool people at that time. Like everyone would like them.
Yeah.
But it's Hollywood too, so.
Well, it's also weird how close the Ducky character is kind of like a gay stereotype character without the character being gay.
Yeah.
Which I don't know when like the gay best friend becomes a trope in movies, but it would be soon around this time.
Yeah, he's the test trial run. Like, oh yeah.
So yeah, then we cut to a girl getting dressed, and this is Andy, played by Molly Ringwald, who she's actually 18 in this movie. Everyone else is like 21 to like 23 or something.
So she's more age appropriate.
Yeah, or inappropriate for showing somebody getting dressed on screen. I mean, they don't get too creepy with it, but
Yeah, I was gonna say. I guess it depends on
But yeah, I'm guessing for like what's the 16 Candles? She was actually 16 in that movie because that comes before this. So
yeah, she.
What would happen if in movies you had to be the actual age of the character? That would be interesting.
That would be upsetting, I would guess.
Yeah. I think that would be like, uh-oh, like, this isn't good.
Because you don't want to depict underage sex with actually underage people.
Yeah, you're like, well, this played one time and you're going to jail. Well, why did they let you make this? I don't know. The whole time, like, are you sure you want me to do this? Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We're showing an IMAX. You can see everything.
It's why your high schooler is always played by like 25 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah, it's more acceptable.
I mean, even John Cryer here he's kind of getting like that widow's peak thing going on.
Yeah, he kind of does have that.
Which I'm not sure what he did for like 2.5 Men, because he had hair in that, and then after that was done, he just like shaved his head. He's like, I'm done with that. So I'm not sure what crazy drugs he took or what kind of rugs he had or whatever. When people have hair, I don't know. When people have hair pieces, I never notice, but that's always like a thing where it's like, haha, you got a hair piece. It's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, whatever. You want to wear something on your head, go ahead. It's fine.
My thing with John Cryer, other than 2.5 Men, was I know he was the guy running for against the other guy that played Baltar in the reimagined Battlestar Galactica. That would have been an interesting Baltar if John Cryer was playing. Because who did that? That British guy with the Callis, James Callis. Yeah, those were the two guys. It's like that would have been weird.
Yeah,
that would have been a much more vulnerable Baltar, I think.
But you can also see where like the Ducky character and Ferris Bueller character are essentially the same, except one's more popular than the other.
Yeah, one's kind of not a stalker.
Yeah, and one has money.
Yeah.
Because Ferris Bueller's parents are pretty wealthy too.
But even there, they try to like make an excuse as like, oh, like, you know, my parents got me a $5,000 keyboard rather than a car. Look how poor I am.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to borrow my friend's dad's Ferrari.
I can't believe it. This piece of shit only goes 120.
And then we have Andy has to go wake up her father, Jack, played by Harry Dean Stanton, and this is supposed to be a whole like thing where it's like a reverse on everything, where it's like, oh, the daughter has to wake up the dad to be responsible. So, and this is also where you figure out, it's like, oh, she doesn't have her mother, which you don't know what that's about. It's like, oh, she dies? Like, no, she apparently just left, but whatever, we'll get into that.
She got tired of taking care of Harry Dean Stanton. She's like, yeah, it's your problem now. I'm out.
Here you learn he's unemployed, but she also says something like, do you want more than temporary work? So apparently he's doing something to get money, but we still don't know. But they still spend the whole movie saying like he doesn't have a job.
I think he's organ harvesting. That's what he's doing. Yeah, I think.
He's trying to join the crew of the Nostromo, but
it's not working. He's earthbound. He's not going.
Here they also make a point that like no one asked her to prom, which, you know, that was also a concern of every teenage movie from here until the end of time. So
yeah,
I never understood that.
To adults, because I never went to a prom ever. I don't know. I think my son went to one, but yeah.
But also we learn here that she makes her own clothes, so we just kind of basically like, oh, she's like an independent woman who's a senior in high school or a junior, like, you know what? Because they make it seem like Ducky's a senior and she's like a junior, because she's saying like, she's saying something like next year, like you're gonna be graduating gone, but I'm not sure what she is, but whatever.
She's a high schooler.
Well, there's also seems to be everyone seems to have indeterminate age, because there's like something when you see the Steph character where it's like it seemed like he's just hanging around high school picking up on chicks. It was like, oh no, he's in high school, but you never see him in class or do anything other than hang around the high school. So I have no idea what's going on with him. So yeah, then we cut to the school and they show out front. It's got 2 scooters, a BMW, and a bus. So I don't know what we're supposed to pick up on that, other than like, is the BMW students or is that a teacher? And what school do you get to park out front with your BMW?
Yeah, that's the same school that was in Greece, the same high school.
Oh, okay. We got a quick shot of Blaine, played by Andrew McCarthy, who's taking notice of Andy. Does anybody like Andrew McCarthy?
He wrote a book about his life. I haven't read it.
I mean, like I said, in this, he's like the least interesting person.
Oh, yeah, he's a complete blank slate. There's
Yeah.
nothing to him other than apparently his parents are rich, and that's a problem.
Yeah. And like I said, in the strange world of class and caste that plays out in the Chicago suburbs, this is you think it's like they were living in where was it, Corona or Verona or wherever.
Oh yeah, they definitely want to play a Romeo and Juliet thing going on here, but it doesn't work at all. So
there's no violence. So
it was probably just like, you know, in the middle of the cocaine tornado, like there's like John Hughes just needed a structure to glom onto, and it's like Romeo and Juliet. That's what we're doing here. Although in this case, it's like, I don't know, like what were the two warring things in that with the Capulets, and what's the other one?
the Montagues and the Capulets, yeah.
Isn't it in that instance, aren't they both like rich?
Yeah, they're both
Yes.
rich people. Yeah, they're both like the aristocracy of that country. So yeah.
So here the Montagues are all the rich people, and the Capulets are all the disorganized poor people that don't have time to actually like make themselves better. Like that's not a group. That's not a group that's cohesive and should really be a problem.
Yeah, they're all gig workers.
Yeah, there shouldn't be something like a group of people that either are a threat to the wealthy or are really having it too bad. Like Dad hardly works, and we're still living in a big house, and we have a car to drive. And
So like they should have had a side story where like Harry Dean Stanton was robbing the rich, and that was the problem. It was like, you can't trust these people; they rob from us. But that's never a thing.
no. Movies always keep it light and character fun. Like I said, I think Kevin Smith suggested it once. There should be a John Hughes cinematic universe where only the things that happen in John Hughes movies are like real, and it's like they should just make like a universe or whatever. I know people have said that before.
Then we have Ducky, played by John Cryer. He's her eccentric friend. Where he's obviously like in love with Andy, but then when she kind of rebukes him, like he goes and hits on some girls, and then they slap him. So Ducky's a really confused.
He offers them the chance to be impregnated.
Yeah, so it makes him a weird, complex character, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Then we cut to history class where we're learning about Roosevelt, which I don't know if this has any deeper meaning, but it's talking about like the Banking Act and stuff like that, where like they didn't nationalize the banks and stuff like that. So you see Roosevelt. Well, it's supposed to be like Roosevelt didn't use all his power to nationalize everything, which I don't know.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure what they're getting at there. But also, like the same year, you got like Ben Stein talking about like voodoo economics and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's like the flip side.
He
of
must
it.
have read a book or an article. And he's like, I'm gonna put these in my movies. And he was like doing the whole. Why am I blanking on his name now? The guy that did The Big Short. That he was doing that before him. He's like, I'm gonna be socially conscious now. Let's talk about economics.
But in those movies, both these things are supposed to be the boring things you learn at school that you don't care about.
Yeah.
Where it's like, see, this has no effect on me. Matt, where are you?
I had to go outside to escape my dog's barking. So
Okay.
now I have to deal with the wind noise. So I'm trying, but my dogs are crazy.
Right.
So yeah.
That's understandable. I just wanted to make sure you weren't rolling down a mountain in a barrel. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, no, I was like trying to find somewhere in my house where I could be, but my dogs are insane. Anything they hear outside, they just freak out and bark for however long until they get tired of barking.
Yeah, I know. I have one too that's like primed for that all the time. People walk by and she'll literally like press her entire body against the glass front door, which we just cleaned, by the way.
And she's like, I got this, guys. I'll protect you. I'm like, we're fine. We don't need. I just stop it. I got this.
From the same people that walk by every day with their dogs, and she's just like glued to the, like trying to break through that glass. And she's actually got out before and ran up to the dogs, and they just sniff each other, and she walks away. It's like, what's all this?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Because they think she's cute. It's like, well, you don't know her very well.
Yeah, she's not as cute as she looks.
Yeah.
Her personality's shit, you know?
Yeah, so we're in history class, and also they're like, there's some pretty girls in the class that make fun of Andy for her clothes, you know, being like, this is supposed to be the whole class warfare, where like, you know, she makes her own clothes and they're hand-me-downs and stuff like that, where there's actually, she's resourceful, but like, you know, whatever. Again, this is a thing I don't understand.
Well, and as someone who's used to make their own clothes, because I was into nerdy stuff like that at once too, making your own clothes is actually not that cheap. Once you get all the materials and tools and resources together you need, it's like, wow, this is kind of expensive.
But yeah, I mean, that's still like a thing where it's like, oh, you got to have like the right clothes or people will make fun of you and you'll get beat up at school, which is not something I ever experienced, but it's has been things I've heard of constantly. So it's both a thing that's real and or imagined. So
It's a combo.
Mom and Dad used to buy me, like, I had like Ralph Lauren clothes and stuff to go to school, but I also hung out with the smokers out back. But I was like, tell me your story. You know, I was the same idiot I am now, just younger. And it's just like, your life seems interesting. How often does your dad get drunk and hit you? Because it's just like, I don't know. I never lived that way. So it's like, I want to know your story.
Only every other day? I thought every day. Oh, okay. Like,
So all the other kids that had like the nice clothes were like, well, you're just some kind of weirdo because you're hanging out with the skags out back smoking cigarettes. And I was like, well, no, they're just interesting. You know, you're not. It's like, your dad's a lawyer. Great. Congratulations. He too is also a drunk, I hear. Would you like to talk about it? And then I get punched in the face. So it's like, whoa. Okay.
But I remember like there was a story I heard on a podcast where a guy, and this was like in Long Island. And so like, you know, they had like the the Reebok pumps came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like a big thing where it's like you got to have those to like fit in. And so he got like the hand-me-down British Knights version and basically got beat up and had his shoes stolen at the end of the day.
And then they're like, wait a second, these aren't even the right ones, and they beat him up again.
You know, they beat him up for being poor and then destroyed his shoes.
I mean,
Stabbing his shoes.
It's like,
That
why are you
seems
trying?
yeah,
Which is like, which like the logic behind that, no sense whatsoever.
no.
Well, yeah, the whole I hate you for being poor and I have money thing is weird. It's like, where does this play out? And then you look, oh, yeah, we live in America. Hold on. Yeah, we see this play out everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, your poverty doth offend me.
Well, the thing is, like, his classmates weren't rich either. They just came across, you know, they stole some Reebok pumps, and then they were the cool kids then.
Oh, okay. So they were mad at him for you weren't the resourceful thief.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little different. But yeah.
Well, no, they got mad at him for trying to fit in when it wasn't the exact same shoe. You know, it's stuff I never dealt with nor understand, so I don't get that stuff. So.
Yeah, I never had
that seems like a complete waste of time, but you know.
It is.
But you know, like those people grow up to, you know, because they build like a social construct where they're the top of it. It's like those people grow up to be millionaires, where I'm more engineered focused and like rational. So of course I grew up to be used and abused by those people.
Yeah, I'm only like a collector of horrors. Like, I'm definitely on the bottom rung of some social strata that others have imagined, but really I'm just like, oh, I'm just here to collect and observe the horrors of life and get amusement from them. Yeah, I'm not trying to like climb a ladder or be part of anything because I just never fit in. I'd get bored. That's the thing about social climbing, is it's boring after a while. It's like, what are we doing? Okay, we got to the top. Now what happens? God reveals the secret of all the universe to us. It's like, no, we just get to feel better than other people. It's like, okay,
Well, that wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So here the teacher picks up on that, because usually in a lot of these movies, like where like the the main character gets picked on, and then like the teacher just kind of looks the other way, or somehow the person getting picked on is in trouble. Here they kind of reverse it a little bit and show like the teacher trying to correct things, but then she's like, oh, this just makes it worse. So let's see.
And this is another case of the too hot high school teacher. No one has a high school teacher like that. Or very few people do.
Yeah, so she's like 29, so it's like you got to play the teacher.
You're a MILF now.
Then we cut to Andy is hopping in her pink car, which is a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia.
Carmen Ghia, yes.
Do you have any Nathan, do you know this car, or did you look it up or anything? Okay.
It's a cool car. They're very collectible now and rare. It was just kind of basically the Volkswagen Beetle guts.
Yeah.
Just in a more conventional format, and kind of looked cool, and they were convertibles, and they were cheap and available and affordable. Now they're like valuable, but back then it's like, yeah, they were around. They weren't as common as the Beetle, but they were just kind of the cooler cousin of the Beetle.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool car, and it's like it doesn't really like angle with the whole class warfare thing, because like, well, you have a working car, like you're so far above everybody else. Then.
Yeah, it's got some dents in it.
Yeah,
it's painted like a dark pink, like, and you can tell it was a manual paint job, or like maybe it was a paint job that you didn't like. They didn't do that at the Boyd Coddington hot rod shop paint job, but it still doesn't look bad. It's been dented in a little bit.
Yeah,
but that's back when most people were driving those. Like, poor people I knew back in the 80s were driving those horrid cars from the 70s that were like huge and got 1 mile to the gallon, and they were all rusted out. Like, she wasn't driving that. So,
but yeah, of course, at this high school, I still don't understand this high school either, where it's like, I don't know, we'll get to that too. There's a lot of things we'll get to. So yeah, she's trying to hop in her car. Then James Spader shows up. He plays Steph.
Yep.
Which is kind of interesting. We have like a character kind of has a male name, and then this character kind of has a female name. I don't know. He'd be like Stefan or something. I don't know. Whatever his name, Steph would be short for a guy. Or maybe it was originally meant to be like a different character, and they just kept the name. I don't know. But hey, it's James Spader showing up, and he's being a smarmy prick. That's what he does great. So he tries to pick up Andy, but. Here I wrote, like, is he in high school, or does he just date high schooler? But obviously he's the villain, and they pop some smokes and walks away. And then for the rest of the movie, he, like, pretends that she doesn't exist. Although here that kind of intimates that, like, he always, like, tries to pick her up after school or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to be that there's something deeper there that's not really explained.
Yeah.
Because he just kind of transitions into this baddie. And that's like his character, but he's more developed than
Blaine.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I know Steph better than Blaine.
But yeah, it seemed like something they just had to rush together. It's like, wait, we need to have a dilemma, because there's almost like no dilemma in this movie.
No,
not one that's rational.
Yeah,
the dilemma is like, oh, we're from different places, it'll never work. It's like, well, great, show that. How show the friction of that. It's like, nah. It'll just all be hypothetical.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Trax, the local record store. Here we got Iona, played by Annie Potts, which is a very interesting character here. He's like, I would just remember her from Ghostbusters.
That's the only other thing I know her from.
But she's great in this movie. She's just this weird, eccentric, like kind of older friend of Andy. So she's stapling vinyl records to the ceiling. She also has like a ponytail and like an inverted mohawk that looks like the guy from like Babylon 5.
Yeah. It's like you're a 90s alien.
And she's got like a leather suit on or something like that. So, very eccentric character.
Vinyl. Yeah, she's a very odd character in this.
Yeah. Also, her style will change constantly throughout the movie, so
yeah.
So it's definitely why like Andy likes her, because she has like eccentric styles and changes it all the time. So it kind of gives her kind of something to work off of. It's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Because she's also doing kind of eccentric. It's more traditional, but it's kind of a mix of things. It's like, the Ino character is more of a blender, and then the Andy character kind of makes it more like acceptable to the masses, even though the masses don't accept her. But whatever. Andy works the counter, so basically she's the only one that actually has a job in the house. Although I don't know how much she's making. Can't be a whole lot. Can't be enough to keep the house, keep a roof under their above their heads. But oh well. Here they go over about like the pressure about going to prom, and I think the Iona character says she went to prom, but she I don't know. She basically just said like she attended it and there was nothing great about it, but then she makes a point that she has a friend who says like she didn't go to prom, and there's always she says that there's always something missing in her life.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like, did she have an abortion or not go to prom? That's a really strong story about going to prom, but that's kind of the randomness of the Iona character, because she almost seems like to have this punk rock ethos at some points, and then at other points she like, oh no, I'm gonna change into this now. So she's always doing different things.
And I don't know if this serves as a prototype to other movies where people work at the record stores, because I remember like there's Empire Records, which is kind of a cult hit, which I liked, and then they got like, oh, what's that John Cusack movie where they're working in the was it High Fidelity?
High Fidelity, yeah.
So I don't, Nathan, do you have any other like music store movie that you can think of?
Not really.
Or one that exists before this?
You've named both the ones I know of.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of famous scenes in like record stores and music stores.
Yeah.
Because those are kind of like, those are always like crossroad. When that's not the center of the story, those are always like crossroad places. It's like, well, everyone comes together here because everyone likes some kind of music.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the teenagers would hang out in these places because that's where the groovy new music is, man. Oh, yeah. It makes sense.
And now they don't exist anymore.
Some of the coolest conversations I ever had with people were in record stores.
Yeah.
About like, because I remember I was like, when I was into my, John, or what was his name? Tom Waits phase. There was this guy who like he owned the record store. He's like, I can get you anything you want, Tom Waits, on CD. Because I remember it was hard to find some of his earlier stuff on CD that wasn't real popular, and this guy like got it, and we used to talk about it and play it really loud in the store and talk about all kinds of music, all the stuff I was into. But yeah, so I like, record stores are cool. It sucks that they're gone, but now you have the internet to do all that research.
Yeah. Now you can find more music. It's just less impressive now because
you
can find anything.
Yeah, you can't have conversations with anyone about it, but sometimes that's better because you never know where conversations are going to
go. And then there's a theft that's like stopped, I guess. I don't know. It just seems like a kid is reaching for a tape, but they just know he's going to steal it or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's also a whole thing in Empire Records. There's like the thief that keeps coming to the store that ends up being like a character at the end of the movie. But here it's just a kid looking to steal a tape. We don't even show what he wants to steal. Like, we don't know what taste he has or whatever. But anyway,
it's the Beastie Boys, I hope.
Blaine walks into the shop and Andy kind of swoons over him. So I have that being the end of Act 1 because it's basically like, oh, Andy wants to go to prom and she wants to go with Blaine for some reason. Like, we've literally never heard this character talk. We don't know who he is or what he represents or what kind of what his personality is, and we
never will.
Nope. So in Act 2 we cut to a live band playing like some kind of reggae pop fusion or something. I don't know who this band is, but they're kind of like a second grade Police or something.
Who was it? Because it's Dweezil Zappa is the one girl's boyfriend.
Oh,
what's his name? Son.
Frank Zappa.
Yeah, and he was, because it was funny. It's like, what would you do if your dad was a millionaire? He's like, oh, I'd kiss his ass. And it's like, that's probably the best line in the movie because like that's true for that actual person. Simon is his name. I'm trying to forget who was that band. I'm trying to remember who was that band that was playing. But anyway, go ahead.
We got Andy is hanging out with Jenna, who's smoking in the club, and she's also a high schooler. So it's probably limiting some people who like got to smoke in places. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the 80s were awesome. So were the 90s.
Interesting about the Jenna character. I didn't write who it was, but she died like at the wrap up of this movie.
Yep.
Like in a hotel room. Like they say they say it's like it was unknown causes, but the Wikipedia article mentions as complications to asthma. So.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't just like a murder or a drug overdose or anything like that. So, or at least nobody said that's what it was. And he wants to know if it'd be a bad thing to date a guy who comes from money, and that's the whole dilemma of the movie. Which the answer is no, but still a problem. Whatever. Again, like that seems like they're kind of trying to for more of a race thing, but they just like, no, people won't accept that, so we're going to do classism as a thing. It's like, well, now it doesn't make any sense. It's like, if everyone's trying to rise in their class, like marrying into it is a way to do that. Like, why is that a problem?
Yeah.
No, we have to stick with our own.
Stay true to the gang.
Which again, like if the whole we gotta stick with our own thing would be more like apt for a racism parable, but that's not what this is about. Unless that's what he was trying to go for. But the studio didn't go for it. I don't know. So then Andy leaves, and we cut to like Ducky's hanging out with the bouncer who's Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah. Weird. I totally didn't see that. I was like, oh, the Dice Man. Okay.
Which I don't know if this would have been like the height of his comedy career or anything. Maybe.
No. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because he was there, and I was thinking, when's he going to start with his, Little Miss Muffet? You know that.
Yeah. Well, here he looks really young. He looks like Jon Stewart weirdly, because like the last time I saw Andrew Dice Clay in like modern times, like he looks almost like Joe Rogan now, but here he looks like Jon Stewart. So.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, they're both like Jews from New York.
Ducky's trying to get into the club, but he's like isn't convincing him. But I find it funny that he still like the bouncer like thinks Ducky's interesting enough to try to give him advice, but he's not cool enough to go into the club.
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously advice is like, oh, she's walking all over you or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't let people manipulate you and use you, like much like you are.
Also, like obviously this guy's just letting high schoolers in to drink and smoke at the bar.
Yeah.
But then Andy comes out, and so Ducky leaves with Andy. They don't show him I'm guessing Ducky just walked here because he has a bike for the rest of the movie, but they don't show him like throwing the bike in her car or anything like that. So he just walked to the club, I'm guessing. Yeah, or did Andy give him a ride there, and then she was just like at the door that the bouncer let her in and not him. That would be extra weird, but they don't show that happening.
No, I don't know what's happening because, like I said, he's such an effective stalker. He's never more than 20 feet from the main characters in this movie. I mean, this guy's really got his game down. I mean, that's one way to look at it. It doesn't come.
Yeah, especially being that he doesn't have a car.
Yeah,
he's like, he'd be perfect for like coordinating like logistics and stuff.
Oh yeah.
This also I wrote John Cryer sounds a lot like Steve Buscemi in this movie.
Yes, he does.
There's a lot of people that just sound like other people like later on where it's like, oh, that person's kind of famous for this cadence, but that's the only one I remember to write down. But they ride through rich neighborhoods, Andy and Ducky, and like basically Andy's like dreams about being rich.
Yeah.
Let me end the call and I'll call you back because we're getting the time limit thing. So,
all right,
I'll call you back. Let's go to standby. Standby. So then we cut to the library where like Andy's on the computer and she gets a message from somebody, but she doesn't know who it is, and then it ends up being Blaine, and he somehow like has like pictures and text showing up, and he's hacking into her computer or something. And it's never this done now. This would be totally like she's being stalked and she'd be creeped out by this, but this is like, oh, who is this? It's like, oh, it's so sexy. It's the guy I like.
Yeah, considering those are those old Apple II computers with like the metal cases, and they're not. I don't think those computers were ever networked. It's like you need to marry this guy and have 9 children. 'Cause he's going to invent the future if he's figured out how to.
But yeah, and that's pretty much the extent of his character, is that, oh, he can use computers. The scene is completely out of nowhere and offers nothing other than like he can use computers, and computers is never used in the rest of the movie. So
Nope.
It's just a thing. Then we cut to Ducky's hanging out with Jack, the dad, who is day drinking.
Yep.
And basically asks like permission to marry his daughter. And also apparently like his wife left him, so that's what it's like, oh, okay, that's what happened to the mom. But also where he gives him advice basically that's gonna work out for the rest of the movie, where he says like, you can love Andy, but it doesn't mean she'll love you back. Which is something this character, the Jack character, has to go through, and something the Ducky character has to go through. So it's yeah, they're both sad characters.
Yeah.
Although I guess Ducky gets sort of a restitution at the end, where it's like, oh, you can't have the person you love, but you can have somebody pretty. So yeah, we cut back to the record shop. Andy's working, and Blaine comes by to talk to her. We also have like Steph shows up. Oh, I forgot the first time we have it where he shows up in the record store. He buys some like old fogey record or whatever, because she does.
It's like a crooner or something from the 50s.
Which I don't know what was supposed to go on there, where she was just like leading him astray to see if like he would buy it or whatever. So I don't know. But obviously he listened to it and went like, yeah, that was kind of garbage. That's a little too old for my taste. So like the alarm goes off and Andy has to like go in the back because like Ducky set off the alarm, and here Steph shows up and you see that like, oh, Steph and Blaine are friends, which they're basically just friends because they live near each other because they're in the rich neighborhood. And also like, yeah, they need to go shoot some trap because that's what rich people do.
Yeah. Only rich people can shoot skeet.
And then she comes back out to the front of the store to see him leaving, and so she's like confused why he's leaving all of a sudden. We cut to Andy gets home, and then like she's turns on the listens to the voicemails, and it's just Ducky leaving like 20 voicemails. Yeah, and she's hoping that like Blaine leaves a message, but he doesn't, so she's mad about that. And then we cut to morning. Jack is awake at first, and he's making breakfast. So there's just, and also he learns that Andy doesn't like eggs, which he's confused by that. He's like, when did you stop liking that? And she's like, ever? I've never liked eggs. But this is supposed to be like, oh, things are turning around for Jack, because he said he got a job, but he won't say where. So this is where I thought it was going to be like he was going to end up being the janitor at the school, and that was going to be embarrassing. But no, he never has a job for the rest of the movie.
Not even a hitman for the mob.
Then we cut to Blaine walks in on all the eccentric groups at the school, which I thought they were like on the roof, but it's just like, I don't know, somewhere at the school. I don't know. It's just
it's not on the roof. I thought it was the roof.
Was it on the roof? Okay, maybe it is. Okay. That's like a thing I do see in some like high school movies where like people hanging out on the roof, but there's like benches up there. So I don't know. Maybe this is like a California thing. But I don't think it would be a Chicago thing. I don't think you'd put benches and stuff on a roof in Chicago.
Yeah, it'd be freezing cold in the winter and burning hot in the summer. I don't know when you. Yeah, it's like
and you're just asking other kids to kill each other too. So.
Yeah, push me off this thing.
Because I don't remember like seeing like fences or anything like that. I don't know. That's like a big thing I see in like animes when it's like people are at school. There's a lot of like, there's this place to hang out on the roof. But again, it has like benches and stuff. It's like, oh, people are meant to go there. I've never seen anything like that. Like always, the roof is just a utilitarian place to like. That's where you put like a commercial, furnace or air handler or whatever.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Blaine is going to class and he gets intercepted by Steph, and basically Steph doesn't approve of him asking Andy out. Oh yeah, I forgot. Andy asks her out here where all the eccentric people ask. Also, I think there's like some offhand remark where some guys with like a mohawk is like, "Are you in the right place?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." This is supposed to show like all the low class people like hang together, but again, they don't. Because even here, it's like there's so many separate groups of people that are supposed to be like low class just because they have like, it's like. It's like the Michael Jackson "Beat It" video just on top of a roof.
Yeah. Yes, the West Side Story concept.
Yes,
like
yes.
Warfare, yeah.
Steph, just puts out loud that he doesn't like Andy or he doesn't approve of it. Which later on they basically say it because Andy just sees through all his bullshit, so that's why he doesn't like her, because she doesn't like him for good reasons, and he doesn't like her because she doesn't like him.
Yeah.
We cut to Andy and Ducky are studying, and this is another thing I don't understand because I don't know what grade he is, because here it kind of implies that he's a senior and she's a junior, but I don't know what's going on. Because she's not actually studying. She's like looking over his work and being like, "You're gonna fail."
Yeah.
And she's like suggesting that Ducky's trying to intentionally fail, so he'll be like left behind in high school, presumably to. I don't know. I didn't know if that meant to like he's to stay in high school because he doesn't know where he's gonna go after high school, or if it's to stay in high school till she graduates. So that's why I thought there was something there, but I didn't understand. I don't know. Did you pick up anything like that?
I didn't understand what the point of that was either. I was a little confused. I was like, oh, okay. Is he just like that dedicated to hanging around with this girl, or is he just like lost and or just kind of this arrested, like, I never want to stop being in high school?
Yeah.
Even though I'm not happy here, it's like I'm less scared than like the unknown future.
Yeah. But also, you see this is where Ducky like kind of like leans in for a kiss, and then he's just being super friend zoned.
Yeah.
Like Andy goes downstairs and he's like starts singing in the room by himself, but Andy can hear him through the air duct, but he doesn't say anything too incriminating or embarrassing that she can hear. And so, but then when she comes back up, he just decides to suddenly leave. He's like, "This is too embarrassing."
Yeah.
Then we cut to the next day with gym class with Andy and Jenna. Here I wrote, "Holy shit, that's Gina Gershon." In like a bit part, she's just like a friend who says like 2 words, but it's like a very young Gina Gershon. Here we have Jenna smoking in gym class, which that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Jenna gets kicked out when she like makes fun of one of the rich girls or just pretty girls. I don't know if it's one and the same. And then Andy kind of is like, the teacher asks like, do you believe in that too? Is like, do you mean that as well? And she's like, no. But then she grows a backbone and decides to like join her friend in protest. And then Andy has to go see the principal. And here it's like very weird because
I did not understand this at all.
It's basically
like you've been accepted into like all these Ivy League schools, but you can't go if you get in trouble. And remember, you're going to this school basically at our leave. And it's like,
yeah,
what is this?
Yeah, because she's basically like trying to like plead that like, oh, she's privileged to like go to this high school because she's a poor person, and they typically don't let poor people in. And like, I thought schools are generally more about like where you lived, not unless because this doesn't seem like it's supposed to be a private school. So I don't know. So this whole thing is
definitely
weird.
Not paying private school, Chicago suburbs tuition fees with her record store job, in addition to paying for dad's house and everything. I don't know. It was kind of weird. But again, it's this class warfare that's like almost horned into this.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that was John Hughes or the studio or what, like, this happened. I don't know.
Maybe that was John Hughes' life. He just had like these instances of oh, my life's gonna end because I'm more or less privileged because of these situations.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why a lot of people liked his movies, because they almost have no real dilemmas.
They're all upset, but they have nothing to be upset about. I like this. My life was like this.
Andy leaves and what about? Andy, yeah, wait, no, what am I writing here? Andy leaves and Ducky tries asking. Oh yeah, Ducky's trying to ask Andy out, but she leaves, and then he ends up getting bullied and thrown in the girls' bathroom by some, like, I don't know, prep kids or whatever. So
Yeah.
because he makes some offhanded joke about, like, oh, how are the stocks doing, which is kind of funny. Then we cut to the record store. Iona puts on a blues song. It's "Try a Little Tenderness" by Otis Redding, in which Ducky slides in like he's Kramer from Seinfeld, and then he does a lip sync dance to the song.
Originally, this was supposed to be a Rolling Stones song, but they couldn't get the rights.
Huh? Okay.
This was kind of improvised at the last minute because they'd actually done the research or done the the rehearsal and stuff with the Rolling Stones song. In the last minute, it's like, oh, we got to do this one instead. It's like, oh.
Well, I didn't listen to the songs. I don't necessarily know the parallels of what the song is doing, but like it does have a thing where it starts out with there's gunshots at the start of the song, which is about Iona like talking about her love life and basically like wanting to kill all the men that she dates.
Yeah.
But then it turns into this thing where it's like, oh, this is Ducky's big like routine to try to win over Andy, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, this is like the Ferris Bueller parade scene, but on
Yeah.
a very small scale.
Oh yeah. This is like the big part where I was like, oh yeah, these are based. Ferris Bueller and Ducky are essentially the same character with just different backgrounds. Well, Ducky's just not cool, but Ferris Bueller is. But here Blaine just shows up and takes Andy on a date, which this is the first time Ducky learns that like they're going on a date. Which I don't know, which like calls in the like the Ducky and Andy friendship as being weird, because you figure like she would have told him that, but
He would know just because he's like waiting outside her
Yeah.
house. Oh, what was going on?
So yeah, it's just more convenient. That less sense, just more convenient for the plot, I guess. They're just setting up a whole Romeo and Juliet thing. Like, oh, they're from two different sides. It'll never work. Then we cut to Andy leaves with Blaine. And here it's like, you want to go home and change? And she's like, I already did. So that's kind of like the whole dilemma. It's like, oh, you're poor. Oh, no. He wants to bring her to a party with his friends. She feels awkward about it. But they cut to going to the house party anyway in some rich neighborhood where it's just full of teenagers half naked and no parents are home. So, again, I don't know if this is real, but it happens all the time in 80s and 90s movies. So
They never went to a party like this one, where it was in somebody's house. I've seen things in the woods like this, not at people's houses.
But did you hear tale of things like this happening?
No.
Okay.
Well, I did hear like somebody had a pool.
Okay.
And like we snuck into the backyard and everyone got drunk, and then somebody came home, and then there was busted liquor bottles in the pool, which screwed up the lining of the pool, and they're like, oh, someone's got to pay for this, and like nobody would talk, and it's like, oh yeah, that sucks. I actually wasn't at that one, so I didn't, like, well, that doesn't sound good. Glad I wasn't there, because
but yeah, this is supposed to be wild and offensive to her, even though she's from the wrong side of the track. So there should be like, oh, cool, it's a party without knives.
yeah.
But it's just more awkward. They go upstairs, which is all. This is all supposed to have like sex connotations. That like, oh, he just wants to have sex with her. Like he's gonna take her upstairs.
We're going to the boom boom room.
He does make efforts to make kind of like a comedy thing. It was like, I'll keep my hand in the pocket, and he's like picking up beers and snacks with like the inside of his like his crux of his elbow and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's
Then,
just like, oh, what's he doing? Like keeping his hands in his pocket or not leaving fingerprints?
but they get to the room upstairs, and it's just a drunk Steph up there. And it's another like school enemy for Andy is in there, because that's just what you got to do. Which I don't.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't.
apparently in some post-coital situation.
Yeah.
He's like in a sex robe, and she's it's like,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, she like comes out of the bathroom, she had to get all the evil out of her.
Yeah, put the poison out. All teenagers, mind you, by the way.
Then we cut to
not real life.
then we cut to the poor club, which is just where the where Andrew Dice Clay is the bouncer. I don't remember if we get a name for the club. I didn't pick one up, but
There was something with neon signs, but I didn't really look into it. So I was like, okay, cool.
Here we have Iona and Ducky are hanging out because she just feels sorry for him, and she's also trying to get him out of Andy's hair so she can go on a date. Here, Ducky seems kind of drunk, but I'm guessing he isn't. But he's just acting that way.
Well, he's so emotionally overwrought.
Yeah. Then Andy and Blaine show up. Blaine goes to the bar, and then Andy meets up with Ducky and Iona. Here, Ducky's trying to pretend to ignore Andy. Then Blaine shows up to the table, and Ducky's mean to him, but Blaine doesn't know why. Because he's never ingratiated himself with Andy's friends, nor does anybody know him, nor does he know anybody else. It's all surface stuff. It never gets explored.
Yeah.
We have Andy and Blaine leave after Ducky makes everything uncomfortable, and then Ducky kisses Iona and tries to make Andy jealous. Here, Iona, I don't know, later on you find out oh, she was blown off her feet getting kissed from a teenager, but yeah. So I don't know how to read that other than it's supposed to be kind of oh, you don't know what you're missing, Andy. For a virgin, he doesn't suck at this. Then we cut to the date's wrapping up and it's not going well for Andy and Blaine. But here the big dilemma is that Andy doesn't want Blaine to see where she lives. Which again, it's well, she lives somewhere, that'd be cool. But
yeah.
But he's trying to tell her no, just drop me off at the train tracks. He's like, what the hell do you mean drop you off at the train tracks?
You a hobo? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'd be more judgmental if someone told me to drop them off at the train tracks than dropping off at a house. But then Blaine takes her home anyways because she kind of admits to that's the problem she has, which again is a very small problem to get over. But whatever. Yeah. That's the whole problem with these two characters, that they don't communicate to each other, and that's why we don't know who they are. I mean, we don't know Blaine because we don't spend a lot of time with him away from Andy. And then when they're together, they don't really talk to each other about anything. They just kind of, it's all circumstantial stuff. Here Blaine just kind of nonchalantly asks her to go to the prom, which she then just dives into his face for a kiss. So she kisses him. They hold on it for a while, and then we cut to Andy goes inside and screams, which I remember this being probably the most famous scene from this movie because I've seen it in clip shows of other things movies of the 80s. This moment shows up. Here she tells her dad that she's about being asked to prom. She's worried she won't be accepted by his rich friends and family, which Jack is why is that a problem? Here also Jack laments about having to talk to his daughters about her feelings and stuff. It's I'm sorry your mom isn't here to talk to you about this stuff.
You almost feel like he's gonna be all of a sudden, so did you get your period or something? What thing can I not help you with? Because I'm just awkward,
I forget this is the part where he mentions when did you start, what he's kind of embarrassed that like she takes care of him and not the other way around, but you know, she's like, oh, it's family.
Yeah.
Then we cut to morning. Ducky rides by Andy's house because they made a proclamation they wouldn't go by her house anymore, but he does anyways. But he's just kind of out of sight of Andy. Andy goes to Iona's place. Here I see that like Andy has a jacket that just says Korea on it with like some it's basically kind of a map. I'm like, this is weird. What's this about?
Who else had a jacket like? Didn't the guy in Top Gun have something like that too? A jacket that said something like that.
Well, they had a thing where it had a bunch of flags on it, which that was the controversy for the new one because like his jacket had a Taiwanese flag on it.
Yeah, and those can't exist in China.
Yeah.
Because Taiwan isn't real.
So they wanted them to CGI out that flag, but I think they got it in anyway, so they wouldn't they wouldn't censor themselves just for China.
Yeah.
But when your movie makes $2 billion, you're not going to complain about it. So.
We won.
Andy tells Iona about her kiss, and then Iona tells Andy about her kiss. While Ducky looms outside, which just seems to be like two completely separate, like not intended to be put together, but they just did a pickup shot and we needed to show him off. Because he's just outside. No one ever takes notice of him. Although there's a part it seems like Iona looks outside and they just cut to this scene, but like she never acknowledges that he's outside. And then he's like outside like a Chinese restaurant who a guy looks at him like, hey, don't loiter around here. Even though the restaurant's not open.
Right.
Andy's like looking through Iona's clothes, looking for a prom. She's looking for a prom dress or some things, and then she finds Iona's old prom dress, which like looks out of the 50s. And then all of a sudden, Iona's in her prom dress, and she has like a beehive hairdo, and then she's dancing with Andy. She's basically like trying to relive her prom real quickly. Which I don't know how old Annie Potts is supposed to be in this movie, but I feel like she's not supposed to be like. Here, like they make it seem like she'd have to be like in her like late 40s or something like that. But I don't know. She mentions she did drugs in the 60s, but I don't know. I don't know how old she is actually here or how old she's
70
supposed to be
now, and Molly Ringwald's 55 now.
Yeah.
So there was like, what was that, like a 15-year? No.
Yeah.
That's a 15-year age difference.
Yeah, something. Okay.
So in 85, yeah, that would make sense. She would be like a child of the late 60s, I guess.
Yeah, because Molly Ringwald was born in like 1968, I believe. I believe I looked that up.
Yeah.
Because that's where I figured out. It's like, oh, she would have been 18 at this time. Oh, no. Yeah, 68. Yeah. Let's see what. Then we cut to Blaine and Steph are hanging out in like the library coke den.
Yeah.
Well, I think Steph is rolling a joint. Here Steph gives an ultimatum that he has to like leave Andy or they won't be friends, which again is meaningless. Whatever.
Yeah, that's always good to throw that mandate down. Like, I'm going to win if I do this. It's like, no, they're just going to be like, cool, see you later. Because people don't like to be pushed around.
And also, there's no positive to like them being friends.
No, it's all bad.
Other than they have to hang around each other because like their businesses are going to merge or something like that. But,
yeah, those are always based on good things. Yeah.
Then we cut to like Andy and Blaine are hanging out in like a hay barn or something, and they basically like mull over their dilemma and they kiss, and then Blaine has second thoughts but doesn't say what it is other than, yeah, we never get his side of why it's weird for him. Because he's always like, I don't care that you're poor, but then he doesn't say like, well, here's the problem with me being rich.
Yeah. It's always him being magnanimous.
Yeah. Other than like almost nobody has parents in this movie, so
You never see them.
I mean, Ducky has no parents. Andy has one father, and then her surrogate mother is basically Iona, the weird chick who owns the. I'm not even sure if she owns the record store.
Yeah.
Then we cut to Ducky hanging out in his really sad room where it's just a single mattress that's like 3 inches thick on the ground. And he's tossing cards in a hat, and there's like graffiti on the wall that's like you don't know if it's his or just what was there before. Or if he's just homeless,
Yeah. Yeah, his room looks like hell. It looks like the inside of a building that was abandoned.
Yeah, it's like an abandoned prison. Like a prison is better than an active prison is better than what this place is. Then we cut to Andy goes to a department store and looks at like a $650 prom dress, which for 80s stuff would be even more ridiculous. That'd be like, I don't know, like $1,300 now.
No, it'd be like $2,100 now.
Oh, okay.
Depending on it's depending on where you're living, because you can always mark up for being around a big city. But yeah, that'd be like $2,000 nowadays.
And then we have
Sure, then and now.
And then we have the customer service person being like, picking out that she's poor or has like weird clothes, and so of course she doesn't have money for the clothes in this department, so she's basically trying to make her uncomfortable, so she'll leave.
Yeah.
But she really just leaves because she sees one of the rich girls there complaining about the dress she's gonna get.
Yeah, the salesperson is basically comes over like, it needs to leave now. So weird.
We cut to Blaine in his room, and he lets the phone ring because Andy's trying to call him. She leaves a message with like a maid or something.
Yeah,
Or maybe it's his parent. I don't know. I'm assuming it's a maid.
Does she speak with a Spanish accent? Oh, it's a servant.
Jack comes home with a pink dress for Andy. Jack thinks it's not a great dress, but he thinks that she can make something better with it. Andy wants to know where Jack got the money for the dress, and then we basically learn that oh, Jack never got a job, and he still can't get over his wife leaving him. And we still don't get the answer. What did you do to buy this dress? So.
Yeah. Forget about it. It fell off a truck.
Because he didn't steal it unless he stole the bag too. But he had a bag, a tarpon bag, and all that stuff, and it was in like one of those, those white packaging that you open up or whatever.
Well, fundamentally, it's like all this growth you think that's going to happen in this movie. It's like, oh, this is where they're going to turn around. It's like, no, everyone's still stuck in the mud. Him, Ducky, all these people are still like we're still prisoners of our past.
Then we cut to school the next day. Here we have New Order's Alasia plays.
Yeah, they had some weird music, and it was like, is this going to become a horror movie now? What are we doing?
Yeah, because I only associate this song.
Krueger going to come out of the mirror in the classroom or the bathroom or something?
Well, yeah, it's like kind of a disconcerting song because it's supposed to like this is supposed to be like the height of the dilemma here, so that's why they play it, to make it sad and disconcerting. But I most know this as like in Stranger Things they use the song for like the Will's funeral scene.
Yeah. Okay, I knew I remembered it from something that was like, it was kind of jarring to hear it here. I thought it was from like Nightmare on Elm Street. But.
It could have been. I tried to look up other famous uses, but the only thing that came up was this and Stranger Things. At least
probably Stranger Things is what I'm thinking of.
So yeah, here Andy has a face off. Andy has a face off with Steph real quick, where they just kind of stare daggers at each other, and then Blaine comes in, like they're around the lockers, and Andy wants to know why Blaine hasn't called her back. And then Blaine and Andy have like a showdown where she yells at him and is like, basically it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you not going to prom with me anymore? And then he doesn't have any excuse, so then she just runs off. But she's yelling, so of course people are concerned.
Yeah, like, what's going on?
It's 7:50 a.m. Class is about to start.
What's the guy from the Blacklist doing with her? Why does he have hair?
Ducky follows Blaine as he walks off, and like Steph is around, and so like Steph's putting down Andy, and then Blaine leaves, and then Ducky and Steph have a face off where Ducky just tackles Steph, and they have an awkward fight because obviously they didn't hire a stunt crew for this. It's like,
yeah, they're like, make it look real, but don't like screw each other's faces up because we're gonna film later.
So that been the end of Act 2. So we have Act 3. We got Andy goes to Iona's place. She meets Iona's new boyfriend, where he's like, here. Iona says like, well, he has a stable job and he's not gay, so that's an improvement from my last boyfriend's apparently.
Andy owns a pet store, so it's gonna be wild. And I'm thinking, what the hell does that mean? What are they gonna do with that poor python? Like, no.
Then we cut to Andy unloads her feelings on Iona, and then she asks for her prom dress, and Iona hands it over. We cut to Andy's like taking the 2 prom dresses that she has, and she makes a new one out of it. So it shows her being like, putting it all together and stuff. And so that's why you like Andy in this movie, is that like, oh, she seems to like know how to do things and is like she's motivated to do things and do something with her life where everybody else isn't.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a problem-solving montage where she conquers the day and wins the boy.
There's also intercuts of everyone else being sad.
Yeah, well, she's sewing and everyone else is moping.
Yeah. She shows off her dress to Jack, and then she says she's going to prom alone. We cut to prom. Blaine is alone, just sitting at a table. Steph wants to go to a party somewhere else, but his girlfriend wants to stay because she wants to enjoy the moment, and he's just like wants to have sex with her somewhere.
Yeah.
He's already done it. He's already undone his bow tie, so he's done for the day.
Yep.
Then we cut to Andy.
Ties off, and it's like, well, get naked because this is all that's left.
Then we cut to Andy is working up the courage to walk into the prom because she's like in an empty hallway, but she can see like the entrance where people are kind of coming in and out. So that like it scares her off. And then Ducky shows up, which he's in some new clothes or he stole them or something. And the only thing that's
slightly different hairstyle, looks a little cleaned up.
Yeah, but not, I don't know. This doesn't seem like more eccentric or less eccentric than what he was already doing. It's just like him in a white suit.
It's different. He still looks like his shoes got drugged through shit, but
yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, that's his thing. He points at his shoes like, it's still Ducky. Like, yeah. I got weird shoes that are dirty. Because it always seems like he's trying to do that, like he's trying to do some kind of like 1950s greasers thing or whatever. But I don't actually know what he's going for. So
it just that was an eccentric thing in the 80s where it was like, oh, thrift store stuff. Like I'm gonna get suits that went out of style in the 60s and wear those ironically, but with like the collar cut off. Or they were doing weird stuff like that in the 80s.
Wait, here he has like a zoot suit jacket in like in the early part of the movie, but he has like chevrons sewed into the which I know like maybe that's always a thing where it's like you go and get like go to the army surplus store and like get like a jacket or something and like make it like and then sew some stickers and stuff on it to make it less militaristic, but like still practical and kind of show off your fashion or whatever.
Oh yeah, I was doing that recently. I did that with like, well, that was to make like movie prop jackets.
But yeah, here Andy's happy to see a friend here, but they've been mad at each other this whole time, so now they just kind of make up for once and they stop hating each other. And so they walk into prom together. Like they're holding hands, which that's a big moment for Ducky, but it's less important to Andy other than she didn't walk in alone.
But then he has this weird line. He's like, they're going in together. He's like, let's plow. And I was like, huh? Whoa, what's going on? Because I associate that with meaning one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, oh, we're going to plow through the crowd. Or I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird. I thought I missed something earlier in the movie as to why he said that. But then watching it again, it's like, no, I didn't. Okay. Strange.
Probably had both meanings. Like, yeah, let's have sex in front of everybody, or let's just get through this.
That would be really weird. Let's show them, and then everyone's like, cut to black. Scene.
Blaine sees him, and he makes his approach. But before that, Steph intercepts him, and he tells Steph off for being a piece of shit because he's like, yeah, you don't like your girlfriend because you just want to buy her and be done with it, and she won't take it. Or no, he's not thinking of he's explaining why he hates Andy. It's because she's not for sale or whatever or something like that.
Yeah, you can't buy her love. It comes from a pure place.
Yeah. So we get Blaine approaches Andy and he shakes hands with Ducky, and then and here Blaine basically explains he's like, I don't really know who I am, and then like offhandedly mentions like I love you, and then he walks out. And then here's where Ducky convinces Andy needs to go after Blaine, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Other than this is the character completion of Ducky realizing that Andy's never going to love him, and so he's like seeing like, well, she loves this guy right now, so go after him. Like my love will always exist, but it'll never come together with you, so that's fine. So that's him giving up on love that might not ever happen. So
now, as I understand, though, we're in the part of the movie where it was rewritten.
Oh, okay.
So basically, the movie ends with like they're holding hands, like "Let's go to prom," and then scene. Like that's the end of the movie. It's like
Huh.
they end up together. But I guess they said test audiences hated that, so then they had to refilm all this stuff, this other ending. And the thing is, like McCarthy had lost about 40 pounds and shaved his head for another role. So they had to put a wig on him, and Molly Ringwald had some kind of like food poisoning. But it's like, no, we got to film these scenes. So when they kiss, I'm thinking, oh, God, I've literally been yakking her guts out like 5 minutes ago. So, yeah.
Ducky gets a nod from like to dance with Steph's girlfriend, so that's kind of his recompense. It's like, yeah, you don't get the girl you love, but you get a girl that's really pretty and
Yeah,
probably
he's gonna
rich.
get blown by this girl after the prom. So chipper, be a little more chipper, put some pep in your step.
Yeah, he's rising up in the world.
You know what this gal's all about because you've seen it throughout the movie. So you know what's gonna happen.
And their love is an honest love. It's
Yeah.
a savage, perverted love, but it's real.
It's a rough, bestial, carnal love. This is that emotional connection you've been pining for all your life.
Then we cut to a parking lot where Blaney and Andy meet and they kiss, and that's the end of the movie.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I had no nostalgia for this movie. I watched the movie, thought like, oh, it'd be interesting if I could really buy the whole class warfare thing, but I don't, because that would be an interesting whole other movie. It's like, oh, you didn't watch the movie you thought you did, but I just didn't think it worked at all. I guess at least they tried something. I don't know. But yeah, I can see why this movie isn't really hailed as much as the other. This is why 16 Candles, which actually is probably way more problematic now. And Breakfast Club was on constant repeat, and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, those are the movies you see all the time of the John Hughes universe. And this one less so, but also this one has a lot of swearing, so compared to other John Hughes movies. I actually don't know what the rating was on it. Let me look that up.
This seems kind of 80s PG to me.
Yeah, I'm guessing PG-13, but I have no idea.
Because there wasn't like a nudity or anything in it.
Yeah, PG-13. Well, they have like a bunch of shits and one fuck.
Yeah.
But that was kind of standard. Like back in the 80s, you could get like you get 3 shits, 1 fuck, and maybe a topless scene that wasn't part of a rape scene or something.
Yeah, it wasn't like you're Gary. No bouncing, just topless. No movement. If they bounce, that's an R.
But I can also see
this was not like because I think like his seminal work for me for the kind of work he does is always Breakfast Club. Like that's what John Hughes is trying to capture, this teenage angst. It happens almost flawlessly in Breakfast Club, where you like really believe that. And and Ferris Bueller is the ultimate like teenage fantasy.
Yeah.
Of John Hughes, and that's what I think of. The emotionalism, all that stuff. This stuff in this movie was, this movie was a little harsh, and it kind of just ran through things very quickly.
Yeah,
it threw a lot of concepts out at you, and it didn't build on any of them. But it kept bringing them up as if though, oh yeah, we have found, like I said, here in Fair Verona, the Montagues and the Capulets are feuding over. And it's class warfare and it's star-crossed love, but it's really like none of those things. It's like I have to get in a shoving match with my friend and yell at dad once, and we reconcile almost immediately. And it's like, yeah, no one's getting a sword run through them in this. And it's like, but you'd think for the emotional stakes were that high with how sometimes the characters act.
And the Blaine character is just completely a blank slate. There's nothing to him. He basically says nothing of value. And I don't know what to say on his looks. He's not necessarily like the best looking guy of the 80s, so you couldn't like sell that either. It's like, well, of course she's in love with him. He's beautiful. It's like, no, he's just kind of a dude.
Yeah.
And he's a dude with a BMW, and like they say, like he has money, but he doesn't have money. His parents have money.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, oh, these guys are rich. They can buy anyone. It's like, no, they can't buy anything unless mom or dad say it's okay.
Yeah.
Or if they're just those absentee, super successful parents, alcoholic, weirdo parents that like, yeah, do whatever you want, just keep the daily limit under 5,000. You know, I mean, there are people that raise their kids that way, but um,
And the reason like they sort of class warfare or clique stuff works Breakfast Club is like they don't want to be there. There's a few amount of characters, and it's all kind of this weird like UN of the people. Like every person is representative of some clique in there, and they all have to argue about it to each other about like their point in their existence and like why everyone's worse than the other.
yeah.
And then here it's just kind of like, oh, somebody's rich, and they never give details as to why that's a problem. Yeah. It's just said it's a problem. There's no proof that it's a problem.
Two rich people in the story, you know, McCarthy and Spade, it's like they don't really develop as characters. They're just like statically like, oh, these are the rich people, but really Spader has more development, but he doesn't have a whole lot other than, well, he's kind of a static douchebag throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
And but see, the thing is, like, everyone's the same in this movie until the end. There is no development, which is kind of weird. It's like they're the situation, time is moving on, but they're not moving with it. There's still, the only thing is at the very end when Ducky like hands her off and like go get her or whatever. But to understand, like, that was filmed like, you know, that's ex post facto. That's not what the writer wanted. It's what the studio wanted. So.
And I actually don't know how well this did. I imagine it did fine.
It's remembered as being well.
Because, yeah, it probably didn't cost a whole lot to make.
Because I think this was this the last Ringwald Hughes collaboration?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think it was. Because I know they had some disagreement. And
oh, and, well, what was it? Because there is Something Wild. I'm not sure if that's a John Hughes thing. Oh, that's a Jonathan Demme thing. Okay. Oh, wait, no, it's something different. No, what am I looking for? Oh, no, I need to find the director, not the cinematographer. What was that thing they did?
Well, because I know, like, the next thing that he wrote that was directed by John Deutsch was Some Kind of Wonderful, and I think
she's in that.
I think he wanted her to play a different character.
Okay.
But she didn't.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like she's a main character. Oh, she's not in it? Oh, okay.
No, she's not. She was supposed to play one of the main characters, and she said no, she didn't want to do it. And I guess John Hughes could be really vindictive and he would never work with you again. Understand that. Because that was almost the start of the John Hughes era.
Yeah.
Where that's like all they did after
Uncle
that.
Buck, Great Outdoors.
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, The Great Outdoors, Uncle Buck. Trying to think of what the last John Candy joint was. Because John Candy was in Home Alone, but very briefly.
Oh, he was?
With the polka people.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Molly Ringwald's still acting. She's in the Riverdale show.
Oh, okay. Good.
Do you know anything about that?
I do not.
It's like what's that? Because Riverdale is the Archie comics thing.
Okay.
And so they made like a super.
You mean like Archie and Jughead, like those?
Yes.
Okay, weird. All right.
And they made like a super overdramatic teenage drama based on the Archie comics.
Weird. All right.
Everything I've seen about it is embarrassing, but apparently people love it. It's like they saw Twin Peaks and like, I want more high school stuff, and then that's what they did with Riverdale. But it's like embarrassing.
I want more Twin Peaks, but without the creative weirdness of David Lynch.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of teen drama.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, everything I've seen about it is embarrassing, but some people just like that stuff where it's like, how ridiculous can the show get? Apparently, that's what Riverdale is. apparently they have like a time jump at some point, and like Archie goes and fights in Iraq and comes back like a like a wounded veteran or something like that, and then goes to jail or something.
Wow. What's that doing at this time?
So anyways, I think Molly Ringwald's like a teacher in that show or something.
She's not playing a teenager anymore.
No. But yeah, so yeah, Resentment Probe in Space contained the supercut of scenes from the imperfect collection of the Verhoeven Effect special movies. Nathan, what scene from Pretty Pink are we shoving into space?
I really had a hard time with this one because, like I said, there wasn't anything where you see. I didn't see like great arcs of characters in this, so it kind of troubled me. So I'm gonna have to say, I would probably say the first time McCarthy walks into the record store, because it explains like both the class disturbance that is apparent in this movie but not developed, and also the fact that like she wants to be like, she fantasizes about the big houses and the rich people and she wants to be closer to them, but she might be betraying her punk roots or something. I would say it was the first record store scene.
Okay.
Not a great one. But that's what I could come up with, because again, one of the weird thing about this movie is I didn't see this almost seemed like it was rewritten as it was being filmed. It's like, let's do this. It's like, where are the characters? Where's the growth?
I mean, Ducky's the most eccentric character, so it's why people remember him.
Yeah.
But like, again, like he's a lot of bad qualities to it. Some of there's been arguments about like why Ducky doesn't deserve Andy at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Almost like in the same way how people like have relooked at Karate Kid and it's like, oh, Daniel's actually the bad guy, and then they make a whole TV series based on that.
Yeah. No, I'm optimistic and fun. It's like, no, you're manipulative. You made people believe things about yourself that aren't true.
What was I gonna say about that? I can't remember. But yeah, I can definitely see why it's like. I definitely know why people talk about this movie, but now I know why I've never seen this movie.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of like what even be like the biggest reference to this movie. Because I mean, it's definitely, you can see other 80s and 90s movies like, what was that, She's All That and all those, and even like, American Pie and stuff like that. You can see that in this movie.
Yeah.
But here it's more just ideas thrown at the wall rather than development.
Yeah, this movie doesn't seem to have the heart that like 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, like those movies, like they had, like you really kind of knew how you could really play up the drama and get kind of sucked into it, where this was almost like scene to scene to scene. And it's like, I know there was drama and I know where there was supposed to be drama. I can clearly identify it, but I wasn't engaged with it. Like,
yeah. And again, it's like older men looking back on movies meant for teenagers, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's also this predates me a little bit, predates you a little bit, and
yeah, so I'm not sucked in by the nostalgia. So I don't look at this and be like, oh, that was my life. But also, I don't know how.
I would have been 11. But I always viewed these movies as like, it's just kind of fascinating time capsules of places and times I didn't really live in. It's like, oh, but I could imagine if you were closer to bigger cities, this was like, you could meet these people and you would have these hierarchies, because there'd be so many people, they would have to organize themselves in some way. You couldn't just all be friends, because that wouldn't be the human way. There has to be conflict and controversy. And also, if everyone got along, life would be kind of boring. There'd be no drama.
Yeah. But I always kind of look at these two, maybe I'm missing something. I always remembered like the brick analogy. You remember that movie Brick? where it's
Okay.
like a bunch of high schoolers and like one of them is a high school detective essentially, and it's a very serious drama. And like the reason he did it like that is because like when you're in high school, everything seems serious and like the end of the world. And so that's how
Yeah.
he shot that movie. And so you can see how like, oh yeah, like when you're in high school, this stuff has a lot of meaning. And like, yeah, it is the end of the world. This could be the end of your life. Like, oh no, I'm not popular anymore. It's like, oh, it's time to die.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
was
I mean, I
never
don't
popular.
think either one of us were ever what you'd call really good teenagers or typical.
I mean, I was like kind of a loner in some ways, but not completely. Like I was definitely into like kind of like goth music stuff, but I didn't put on the uniform because I thought it was stupid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I did play sports, and there was always this backlash. It's like, oh yeah, like the goths and the what do you call that? What's the nickname for like the people?
Jocks.
The jocks. Yeah, they won't get together. It's like, no man, if you could play basketball, no one cares what your background is.
You can wear all the dark makeup you want to. It's just
So like that stuff never made sense to me. Where it's like, oh, you got to fit in this thing. It's like, whatever. It's like, if the basketball team, all they were cared about is like, do you have grade? Do you get good enough grades that you can stay on the basketball team? Then do what you want.
Yeah.
If you like,
Yeah, that's like I said. I was just kind of this self-made outcast in high school because I really wasn't interested in anything that was going on. But I did like to stir up trouble and stuff too. It's like, no, you're having too good a time. I need to come in and ruin this. And I think people picked up on that and didn't like me for that either, which was fine because I really didn't want to be involved in anything that was going on.
and sometimes I did feel class stuff because sometimes I'd be in like, I didn't really do AP class. Well, I did some, but yeah, basically I would be in classes with like the rich people on occasion, and had a rich friend at one point, and yeah, that stuff was pretty jarring. It's like go over to their house and it's like, oh, you have everything.
Yeah.
This is stuff this isn't just stuff I see a commercial on TV and think, oh man, in 6 months when Christmas is, do I really want this one of these things I've seen on television? When it's like, oh, they saw it on television and then they asked their parents and they had it.
Yeah. Like, so what are you into? Like Nintendo, Sega? And it's like, yeah, I got a Jaguar too. It's like, what? No one has all three. I made 10 games for that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you'd have to like bike to somebody else's friend's house to see the Jaguar. Like, here you got all three.
Hey, are you into Lord of the Rings? I am too. Look at what my parents gave me. It's like a wooden statue of Gandalf, life size carved. It's like, what the hell? What does your dad do? Oh, he like does surgery on people's hearts. It's like, oh, okay. So he's never home, and this is how he shows you that he loves you, because it's like, you can't have my love, but here's a statue of Gandalf. But I was still like insanely jealous and tried for years to figure out a way to steal it. Never worked out, but I'm still thinking about it.
And then sometimes I would be met with my own privilege because that, like, some of my friends would be like, "Oh, your parents are divorced and you're poor, and so coming to my house is like me going to my rich friend's house."
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, you're coming to my house. I have a Genesis, and we can rent a game one time a week and then play it on the weekend, and then I got to give you the shitty controller because that's all we can have. And then we got to play on a black and white television. But you know what? I have all this stuff that you don't, so I'm rich by comparison." Because I have a black and white TV in my own room.
Together. I don't hear them screaming at each other. What's wrong? Some people don't hate each other all the time.
Or like, so, yeah, like where someone's like, "Can I stay at your house for the weekend?" And it's like, we're not really on the best of terms right now, but it's like, "Oh no, it's because I don't want to be around my parents this weekend." It's like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess we can play video games."
Yeah. Would you like food? Like, what can I have? Anything you want. You like Pizza Hut? It's like, oh, we only do that on special occasions. I actually knew people that was like special occasion Pizza Hut kids. Like, whoa, your life is really weird. Hey, you want to come over to my house? Nah, let's just stay over here. Whatever's going on. I don't need some kind of like, oh, we're going to do the Grapes of Wrath? What is this?
remember one time it was like, this was like probably when I was like 4 or 5 or something, but I had a friend and stayed the night over to his house, and then like we were being annoying, and I didn't get beat up, but he did. And then we stopped being friends after that, because that was very uncomfortable to watch your friend's father beat him up in front of you.
Oh, I had some friends, and I was older. I think it was right before I started driving. They were like ma'am and sir parents, you know, those kind of fucking parents, but they were drunks also. We were like hanging around this guy's house, and you know, and he asked me, so would you like something to drink or anything? Would you like a soda or anything? I was like, no, thank you. I said no, thank you. Oh, yeah, this guy told his son. I was like, yeah, he better address me like this or like that. And then like we were in a side room, like outside, and he's like, yeah, my dad likes younger people to say no, sir, no, ma'am. And I was like, he's a fucking drunk. Why would I say that to him? And I guess his dad heard it. And it led to phone calls about what a bad person I was. And other parents asking me, I was like, he's a drunk. You know, but nobody liked the fact that I was making this honest observation about this. So I lost 3 friends because I didn't fawn and scrape before these alcoholic hillbillies and give them lordly titles. So it's like, yeah, I never got things either. I always fucked everything up. But, you know, in the end, I won. So, I'm here doing a podcast.
I win.
Yeah, I win.
If you like what you heard, how can't you? You can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. If you're listening to this on whatever some platform of your choice, whatever you listen to, if it allows ratings, you can rate our podcast whatever you want, but remember, the algorithm only listens to the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm doesn't control you. At verhoeveneffect.com, we have listener support. You can support this podcast on a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, $4.99, or $9.99. And we're at, I guess, formerly known as Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. We're on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. We're at YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. And we have t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Colin.